Hi, this is Carson with Troy, and I have with me Joe Belcastro. Joe, thank you for getting on with me today. Now, you have had a long well, I don't know about long, but you've had a storied career, very interesting. You are a author of the Dominature series, three-book series, which, from my understanding, is a three-part series. That's going to be it, correct?
Yeah, I just wanted to write the trilogy for that story, for the Dominature story, yes.
So, outside of that, before you became an author, you were a writer for WWE. You are a film critic. Um, Very much, you sound like your career has been like every young boy's dream. So, Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, you know what? You just aged me because now that I think about it, it is a long career. That means I'm older. Um, and I do feel that some days when I'm running like a madman. But yeah, I started, the order was kind of film critic, and then that kind of weaved me into journalism. That was a 5-year stint. And then WWE, which was, you kind of said like a boyhood dream thing. It was for me. I always wanted that. It's just funny when it happened because I wanted it right out of college, but it didn't hit me until 12 years out of college. So when you're ready, the opportunity presents itself to you, I think, with that. And I did that for 7 years. I was set in terms of my goals were accomplished. I love what I did. Uh, but then out of nowhere in the final year, this idea to write my own story. And what would that be? Is it a movie or is it going to be books? And I never had the urge to write a book. Not because I feared it or I didn't read books. It's just I just never popped in my mind. And then I came up with this idea for the title is Dominature. Then I was like, I really want to do a premise that's the ultimate good versus evil and make it an epic thing because I'm a student of Lord of the Rings, but I'm also a huge fan of Christopher Nolan, and I love what Christopher Nolan does in movies where he takes these larger than life characters that we know, for instance, like The Dark Knight, and he kind of grounds it in reality. So I was like, all right, I want to do that too because I'm passionate about that. I would enjoy writing something like that. So how do I do it? And then how do I stand out? Because when I was in WWE, that was a goal every week. Whether you're doing something on TV to attract viewers, but also just develop characters, which is a big part of what I did in my latter years at WWE. I was with the NXT division brand, and we were developing the next generation of stars and like how do you get them noticed in a sea of already established people. So here I am now going back to the books in a sea of books, and I'm just shocked how many people actually try to write books, and some do it very well. And I was like, and that was I was naive to that. I didn't think that many people actually go after this. And so I was like, all right, what do I got to do? I got to think of something good. And then I came up with, all right, what if the devil banished God from heaven? The two ultimate good versus evil people in our society. What if I switched the dynamic around, kind of put my own spin on what the devil is and what the God is, and then I was able to do that all history stuff with it. And I went with it. I did know from the start that like this is going to be, in my mind, it was provocative, but I also knew it could be controversial because you just see that and you're like, well, what is he doing? Is he a Satanist? Is he anti-religion? Like, what's he doing here? So marketing was the biggest challenge. Um, but yeah, I just finished the third one. I just finished it 7 months ago, and that's been out there. So I've been doing some book festivals this past summer and some Comic Cons. I've learned that was a good um, addition to my touring and marketing. And so now that I have a trilogy, I've been just kind of doing interviews when I can, marketing the best I can. And for me, I think it takes time, especially when you have something that's not easily accepted sometimes based on the title and what I did with it. So for me, and it's the story of my whole career to bring this whole thing forward, wrap it all up together from your first question, is I'm kind of a slow burn guy. I'm very methodical. I wish I could take a faster path sometimes, but it's been beneficial for me to just kind of go at this pace in all the things I've done. And I've been fortunate where I've come out to where I wanted to be on the journey.
So this idea that popped in your head, was it this original story that you wrote, or were you just like, okay, I want to write a book, and a whole bunch of ideas kind of flooded, or you wrote down a whole bunch of ideas and like this is what you stuck on?
I knew I wanted to be good and evil, and then I did kind of know, like, I want to play with this God devil dynamic because I loved those movies back in the, back in the day from like this something in the 80s called the Prophecy series. It was with Christopher Walken, and it was a horror movie. And my books aren't horror, but they brought in that element of religion and like the Antichrist and the devil and all that stuff, and I like that kind of stuff. And then something more modern like Constantine with Keanu Reeves, and like even the End of Days movie with Schwarzenegger, where they tried to make it like an action second coming of the devil type thing. I love those stories, but what I've always my guess my little gripe with them is like they tease God, they tease the devil. There's kind of like ancillary characters. I was like, I want to make them the focus, and I want this to come to a head, like the big battle. And I'll go back to that Lord of the Rings reference of like, I want to see Sauron taking on, the armies of Middle Earth, and like how they showed in like the beginning of that trilogy. That's what I was trying to get to in some form or fashion.
Nice. Now I don't know if you go to on Amazon to read your reviews or not, but I found this one. I thought it was interesting, and it says if Dan Brown's was on steroids, this is the kind of novel he'd write.
Yeah, Dan Brown's brain on steroids. I did see that
Did you
one.
see that one?
Yeah.
I like that.
Um, yeah, I mean, look, that's a hell of a compliment too. And and my trick in life, and it's just for me, uh, and I know some people say I shouldn't say this at all, but I never was one to read like in film critic when I was a film critic. I didn't read other people's reviews that had been established and have a following. I didn't want to have anything like seep in my mind of like influencing my style. And the same with when I was doing the TV stuff with WWE. Yeah, it's professional wrestling. There's a little bit of a limitation of what you can do with the stories because of the arena, the ring, the atmosphere that you're kind of working in, right? But I always try to just block out what say like was done in the past and like what can we do now? And then same with books, like so I don't have like the laundry list of books that I've read, and I've seen the movies of, the Da Vinci Code, but I never read Dan Brown's books. Um, and you can go look at reviews and what people said, but everyone has their own opinion. But all I do know is that the Da Vinci Code sold millions and millions of copies, and I think it hit at the right time, because his story, from what I know about it, and this is very general, like he wrote a bunch of well, a bunch. I think he wrote 3 or 4 books, and then he got to the Da Vinci Code. And I remember him saying in an interview, because like I did get the comparisons to Dan Brown in terms of, just the subject matter of my story, that, he didn't really catch on until that Da Vinci Code really got out there. And it was just the right time for that. People, I think, wanted a shift from whatever literary stuff was kind of being saturated in the market. And you see that in patterns, like, the books, a lot of people crap on those Twilight books, but you can't argue that they are insanely popular. Um, they sparked a whole genre that took off, and not just in books, but like it affected TV and film. And, sometimes things just hit at a certain point. But we can look back at some of like the masterworks that we know now, and like they didn't hit for 20 years or something like that, which is scary because I don't want to wait that long. But if it is what it is, right? I always tell people that, and some people think I lost my killer instinct a little bit. And I was like, I don't know about that. I think I just have a different perspective. Like I was fortunate, I landed my dream job. Uh, and so anything I do now is kind of icing on the cake. So I'm not like I hustle, I work hard, I want this to happen kind of in a certain amount of time, but if it doesn't, I'm not gonna be broken about it because I'm well aware I was very lucky to um, have some, whatever you want to call it, success um, earlier. And so I'm not one to get greedy, put it that way.
Well, you said earlier in your kind of introduction is you kind of take the slow burn approach. And talking about going back to what you said about Dan Brown as well, like the Da Vinci Code, was, 3 or 4 books into his career. Um, so what are some of your goals as an author? Like they might not I don't know if you're planning on writing more books, or is this kind of what your goal was and you're kind of done, you're gonna move to the next thing? What's kind of your goals?
Well, it's a good thing we're talking about this now because that question is quite timely. Uh, my goal, I was kind of like a little burnt out, and I don't like using that term because I'm not sure if it's accurate, but all that stuff I talked about, my film critic or my journalism career, the WWE stuff, and the author stuff, which is now, I mean, the books have been out for under 2 years, but like it was 2 years of kind of getting them ready to go. Uh, so that's like 15 years of nonstop creative writing, essentially. And journalism is creative writing, especially when you're writing reviews, and especially since you have to frame stories outside of just journalism. And I caught myself, I was like, you know what? I need to like, because everyone in this author community, as you know, keep writing your next book, keep writing your next book. It's like, all right, some people can bang out 100,000 words in 5 weeks. Some people go, I know one successful author in the UK, they take a year for every book. And I think I'm more that person, even though I'm used to writing at a fast pace because I wrote TV and it was live every week. But that's all being said, I did take a break in terms of the writing spot over the summer when I was doing the tours and all that stuff and marketing. Yeah, I was still promoting Dominature, but I wasn't writing anything. All I did was learn the marketing side, which is all that behind the scenes boring stuff of Facebook ads, Amazon ads, promotion sites, like what's the best way to utilize. I even tried TikTok, which is a freaking joke. But if I was a romance author, I think it would work. They seem to do well. But then October hit and I love Halloween. And so I started thinking of like maybe I should just lean into something that I've always wanted and I've been a fan of again, and that was horror movies. But then I was like, I was jotting down some ideas, and then if I remove this virtual background that I have, you would see my whiteboard with all my stuff, which I haven't done since my writer's room days at WWE. I have like whiteboards, I have these giant sheets of paper with notes on it, and I came up with this 2 book horror series. And I'm at the point where I think I'm going to go all in on that. I think I need to give it another shot to do something different from Dominature. And this is as transparent I can get with things because I think it helps people. Dominature is still essentially in its infancy. It didn't rise to the standards I wanted to in terms of sales and stuff like that. So I do understand when other authors say, "Hey, keep writing," and I think I have to give that a shot. I have to do something different to see if you can pull one up. Maybe this one does hit better and then drags this one up, or maybe it doesn't. But either way, it's something I'm pretty passionate about, the story and the genre, and I want to take a shot at it. And um, I say all that because there was some temptation to go back to the wrestling life, and I'll just leave it at that. Some people reached out. I won't say which promotion it was, but it got me thinking a little bit because you step away from something, uh, you start thinking like, maybe you could walk back in there, and then maybe you can actually handle that grind even better than you did the first time. And so that I can't say I don't think about that, but I'm to answer your question in a long-winded way, I think I'm going to write these books. I'm going to make up my mind. Actually, I'm going on a little weekend trip, and when I get back, I'm gonna just decide to be like, all right, here we go, chapter one, because I got the whole story kind of laid out now.
That's awesome. And that kind of brings me back to the point I asked you the question to kind of reiterate what we were talking about before, like with the slow burn is sometimes it takes more than, one book, two books, three books in order to kind of take off. And I'm glad to see that. I mean, in your WWE days, you probably didn't start out as head writer. You probably started out
Right.
kind of low man in the totem pole, and you worked through that. It took a while. Um, even
Yeah.
a movie critic, I'm sure you weren't paid the highest top dollar your first review. You might have even given it away for free. I don't know.
No, I mean, no, I learned you gotta get something for your work, no matter who you are. No, but yeah, the journalism, that was a very humbling experience. You went from like, I went from a corporate job where I dressed like a PJ golfer, which I just is not me. I mean, you can see me. I don't look like a PGA golfer. I don't have the personality of a PGA golfer. But I was doing that, and but that's, it's guaranteed money and all that stuff. And then you make this switch to be like, you know what? I'm gonna kind of lean into my passion of writing. And what was I passionate about? Again, I'll say it again. I do love movies. I mean, it's interesting. I haven't gone into the film world, but I've seen how crazy that is. Like TV, I get, and I actually appreciate it more. Film is just, ooh, it's I think it's more maddening than being an indie author. Um, and I'm sure the your audience might get that, but if no one understands film or the author world, just picture constantly wrangling cats and people just breaking your heart. And I think that's filmmaking.
Yeah, like I've been told that in the film world, everything is yes, 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 yeah, we'll do this, we'll do this, and then it's all of a sudden like last minute pull the rug out from under you, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's kind of, I always kind of put it to like a relationship, right? If you want, like, if you're with your significant other, you gotta watch what you say with that stuff these days, but you like, then you're committed to that, right? But sometimes the other person is always just like, well, what else is out there? Well, maybe I can go do this person. Maybe I can go do this person, literally and figuratively. Um, and that is the film world, because no one's rowing in the same direction. No one's focused on the one project. And I get that's part of the game. I think I'm a little jaded by it because I was part of a team at WWE where were rowing in the right direction, and we were all self-motivated people. Like nobody slacked off. Everyone was watching each other's back. It was great. Um, and so that's like the only thing I miss. Like, it's nice having a writer's room. But when you're an author, it's, especially for me, I put it all on myself. And I did that when when I eventually got to being the head writer and vice president of creative. Like, it's my name on the show. That's my attitude towards it. Yes, we were a team, but and we all had success together and we all failed together if we had any failures. But I still went in there like, if something didn't go right, it's on me. And that was the whole mentality in that place. Now it's the same thing, but it's obviously magnified because you really see it's on you. Like if somebody gets you a 3-star review, I mean, that hurts me. I'm like, almost rather give me the 1-star review. I'd rather you completely hate it, but like 3 stars, I'm like, oh, it's a friend zone. Like I don't want to
Right,
be in the friend zone. Like it's just a tease, but
exactly.
yeah.
Well, let's go into your WWE days a little bit. Going from a team of writers to use solitary on a computer, what was that transition like, and was it kind of hard that you didn't have people to rely on?
The the second part of that question, it wasn't hard not having people. Um, and I don't know, it's just my personality. I'm pretty good at, you know, especially now, I'm good at self-critiquing. Um, if I know if something sucks. And I always used to say to some people, especially employers, and this is a great job interview thing, I always said, I might not always know what to do, but I know what not to do. And so I kind of lived by that. But the nice thing, I'm patting myself on the back. The nice thing that I did is when my final day at WWE, and I gave them tons of notice, I knew it was coming. I decided to only take 8 days before I start writing the book. At that point, even though I was doing all this stuff still with WWE, I did have the outline of the story for Dominature for book one, and I had the general things for book two and three. But I realized that, all right, don't take 3 months off, because a lot of people, a lot of people like, just go enjoy life. I mean, 7 years in WWE is like 12. Um, and so I just told myself, uh, I didn't mean to do 8 days, but I was like, I probably just said take a week, but it ended up being 8 days. And I was like, all right. And then on that day, I just like, don't lose that work ethic that you had. Stay with it, especially since you just walked away from your dream career to bet on yourself big. And so I kept that work ethic and I just went at it. So I had chapter one, I just started to go. And that was helpful to me. So I actually, even though like, yes, I don't have a team to rely on and it is all on me, I mentally prepared myself for that. And there was no rush. I had no deadlines. But I did want to not lose that work ethic that was instilled upon me. And that's been very helpful.
So in WWE, you said you were part of the NXT brand, and that is preparing the next stars, bringing up and coming stars. And you said, you were vice president and the head writer. Um, WWE is fantastic storytelling, and you have to come up with larger than life characters in match. It's a story, it's the stance of good and evil. Um, what did you learn about character development, and when you were training wrestlers or helping wrestlers and creating characters for wrestlers, when was it time to, you know, ditch a gimmick and go with something else? And how did that happen? How did that help you with character creation in your own book?
Apparently, I have this pattern of answering your second part of the question first.
That's okay.
Uh, that it helped them immensely. That's a short answer. If I didn't do what I did at WWE, there's no way I could have handled these books. I'm not saying that everyone's gonna like the story, and that's fine. Like that's part of the game. You might not like the story, you might not like where I took it, but I can say with confidence, I know the structure's there, and I know the characters are well defined and they're balanced. And that came from WWE because, to your point, I worked on all those shows at once for a good chunk, like Monday Night Raw, which is one roster. At the time, it was Friday Night SmackDown. That's another roster. And then I took on the NXT, and then I won't even get into the UK brand, which was that was one of the most fun times I've had, to put it that way. Uh, but what you had to do is to know if a character's working. In NXT, I had the opportunity to run simulations. Our performance center was amazing. We could replicate just about everything you would on like a Monday Night Raw or whatever. And we did that. And you just kind of learn like, is a person portraying this character or personality, are they believable? And it's not just me, it's like I have a team with me and we're all in all walks of life. Um, some were former wrestlers, some were just creative people, some never knew what wrestling was, but yet they picked it up and they contribute to the team. And you just kind of go with your gut in that scenario. And then we had the opportunity. Look, we at the time, for a couple of years, we had a smaller audience looking at us, so we can take some risk, we can try some things out. And what we ended up doing is trying just not just with characters, but camera angles and stuff like that. And then if it worked, we would go knock on the door of Raw and SmackDown and say, hey, look at what we're doing. Does this look cool to you? Look how we shot this. Or look at this character, right? So we were very we had a decent process of showing what we created and developed. It's probably the better word because everyone had a hand in the creation. And then when you get it to like the next level, you kind of can listen to the audience and they can tell you if this is working or not. And that's the beauty and the pain in the ass sometimes of WWE is you can lay out all this great story for months and then the audience can be like, wait a minute, we didn't like, you get 30% into that storytelling, then they don't like this part. And then you're like, well, why not? And then you try it again, like, oh no, they don't like this. This isn't resonating. And then you have to do an adjustment, and then it's all this rewriting, which is, part of the game, but also it can be annoying, especially when you have a lot of people kind of involved. But that's the thing with NXT. Eventually, we did well with the developmental part. Then we got a TV deal, so we became the third brand and major TV deal and more eyes on us. And so then we were able to just everything I said just became focused on us, and we kind of just did our own thing, and we were the alternative. And then, again, it's just the same process. Listen to the audience. What are we feeling? Is the talent feeling it? Like there's a lot of open communication, and you just got to process it all, and it takes a while to learn how to do that. And but once you do, you know, like I said, it can be annoying. I'll just keep using that word. um, but it's for the right reasons most of the time.
Well, you brought up a couple points that I'd like to point out. Yeah, you had the training center, and if you relate it to an author, that was kind of like your first draft. And you can play with things, you can toy with things, you can change
Yeah,
things. And another thing you brought out was, you could take risks. As a new author, you can play with different sorts of genres. You can genre bend. You can, like with you have kind of have this fantasy alt history thing with Dominature, but you're going to try horror next. And so, um, for people who are famous and expect a certain type of story coming from them, um, if you branch out into a different genre, whether you're writing like high fantasy and all of a sudden you're writing romance or whatever, your fans aren't going to like that. But as a new author, you have that risk. You can take chances. You can do things that you are just fun, and you're able to do that.
yeah, yeah. You know what? A good way. I mean, I wish I could relate more with the book stuff, but I always go to music in this situation. It's like a band that's, known as, it's like if let's take a famous band like Metallica, right? Metallica's a hard rock band, but there was a time in their career they didn't go as heavy on an album and people lost their mind. Like, and they cut their hair. I mean, what are they thinking? They're cutting their hair. It's like the change freaked them out because, like you said, a famous author can write, Stephen King decided to write a romance novel, and maybe he has, I don't know. Uh, but it'd be like instantly rejected, but when it should just been like, all right, he's a artist, he's a creator. Why do we have to keep him in this thing? He's already done that. Like, let him take a shot. But you're right, it's harder for him to take a shot, which is baffling because he's an established writer that knows what he's doing. Um, so new people, yeah, you should, I don't like that term, like you only get one chance to make a first impression. I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah.
You can tweak your game. Now some people are more judgmental, and you might lose those people, but that shouldn't deter you from not sticking to your guns on some things.
Right, and as an indie author, you have the freedom to take a book off the market, change stuff, and re-release it, whereas traditionally published books don't have that freedom.
Yeah, and look, I think you got to, if you believe in something, you got to dance with it. Yes, you can tweak a cover.
Right.
Um, I mean, I'll fully admit that. Like you can see, my first cover, I kind of wanted to go. I mentioned Stephen King, even though I'm not horror for the Dominature trilogy. I kind of always like those classic horror, like The Stand, or like even like the simple Lord of the Rings things. But I was not smartened up yet to like, hey, certain genres have to have certain covers. This is what these readers expect. So I always say like I did a soft opening, and if I ever do make it big as an author, everybody who supported me in the first, whatever it was, 6 months or a year, you have a collector's item that's going to be hopefully worth something and you can thank me later. But yeah, like you you can make some tweaks, and some people change up their blurb, which helps on their like on their marketing page or on their website. And you should be mindful of that. But overall, I always been stick with your gut. You're gonna find your audience, and you know, not every look. The reality is not everybody can make it. That doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means you have to go somewhere else to find your success.
Right, and
All it is.
success in making it means different things to different people, like,
Yeah.
if you are making I don't know, well, let's go back to where we met, 20 books to 50K. I'm sure if you are making 50K on your books, like, that's a success to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if your goal is to make, I don't know, $1,000,000 a year on your books, then you might view that as a failure. So, like, being able to reframe your thinking, I think, can help you find that success if you believe in something.
Yeah. This tattoo, it's a skeleton key. It says prospettiva, which means perspective in Italian. Uh, and that's what I eventually got to in my thinking on things. Like, if you have the right perspective on things, and you just gave a great example, like, yeah, 50K writing books. I mean, depending on how you live or where you live and what your lifestyle is, that's fantastic, right? But some people want it all, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would love Dominature to be popular enough where somebody wants to adapt it, because I want to see, here's the thread again of the movies. I want to see somebody bring this to life. I don't want it to be me. I would love to be a part of it, but I don't need to be. I want to see somebody take these characters and I want to see this on the screen, because that's how I have enjoyed storytelling more than ever. Um, so yeah, that's my goal. I mean, it was never to hit, 7 figures or something like that. I mean, if it did, I'm not going to shy away from it, trust me, but it's not the end all be all. I mean, I think you're right. I think it's just, what do they want, and then can you be honest with yourself, and don't crumble if it doesn't happen. I mean, maybe you're going to find what your true happiness is on this path of whatever it is.
Right. So let's talk about, you mentioned story structure earlier. Um, what did you learn from WWE about story structure and how you tell stories in a live format where, things are happening and you have to adapt as you go along versus your story structure for your writing a novel?
Yeah, look, so now more than ever, you have to engage an audience quickly. There's not this My generation, I don't know if anyone's been doing math on this trying to figure out my age, but my generation's, was brought up like used to the slow burn, methodical storytelling, but now we've just like, the younger generation, in their 20s right now, we want it faster too. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. So you have to be mindful of that. And my comparison with books is like, um, I've read stories where the author is a masterful articulator of, like, you're walking in the castle, here's what's on the wall, here's this, here's that, look at this tree. And it's amazing writing, but it's 5 pages long. And I don't think people want that. I think people are going to get away from that. I think people still appreciate it, but one thing again I was kind of mindful of, um, was, all right, what's my strength? I know visual storytelling. I learned how to pace a TV show, when to give them a big moment in a, wrestling case, like when to give them the big match, when to run the big angle or something, gets double crossed or somebody gets injured. Um, and same with like a movie, if it's a horror movie, we'll go back to that just because my mind's on horror since of the new books. When do you give the big kill, right? When's the big chasing? When do you reveal the monster, or where do you reveal the creature or the killer? All that stuff has to be timed right. Uh, and so what my storytelling in Dominature, I wrote it like I'm a big fan of like when HBO was like one of the first pioneers to come out with like the Sunday night drama, right? And you had, a lot, everyone goes to Sopranos, but I'll go to Game of Thrones. And people had to get used to that Game of Thrones style of it's not going to just be blood and guts and crazy battles every episode. There's a lot of character development, but it was within an hour show. I'm like, how do I put that on the page, but also not making sure this doesn't read like a script? Because that's what I had to be mindful of. Because I did want the challenge of like, how do these authors guide you through a 300, 400 page story? And so that's what I did. And I think some of the reviews state that like everyone says it's a very cinematic read. They can visualize this, they want to see this, and that's very kind to everyone who gets that. Some people are turned off by that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think that what I took from WWE is all right, we can't go to if you have two characters that are red hot, meaning the crowd likes them, and not just likes them, like you have your great what we call baby face, which is a good guy, and then your heel, which is a excellent bad guy or girl. And then you eventually, when do you want to have that happen? Um, Fans could be clamoring for it like in the summer, but maybe that's not the best time to do it. We should try to find a way to save it for our biggest show, which in our case was WrestleMania, which didn't happen until April. So you learned how to weave these characters, keep them apart, balance it out, and then when the clash. And I think seeing how the people that came before me and like, my head writers that hired me, um, the Vince McMahons of the world, the Triple H's, who were kind of guiding the writing teams, you just learned how to do it and you started to understand it more. Like, because, when you're watching as a fan before I got into any of this, you're like, well, why aren't they having this? Why isn't this happening now? Or why isn't this person the champion? And then you start to see the reasons behind the scenes why we didn't pull the trigger here or why we're waiting there. And there's a multitude of reasons that I can't even get into, and some I just won't share. But uh, yeah, that's the thing I kind of pulled to it and how I was able to structure things.
Nice, and you mentioned marketing earlier. You said it was the boring stuff, but that's the most important part. Like, if you wanna make a living, like, if you wanna write books and not sell, that's fine. Like, if that's your dream, that's fantastic. But if you wanna make that 50,000, million, or whatever, you gotta market it. What have you found success in, and how, has your experiences with cons, how has that helped you?
So if there's any success, because I don't think I've had much success, and I don't say that in a like feel bad for me way. I just don't think my game is ready. My marketing game is tight yet. Is something I would say. Like I think I got get better at it. However, the cons and the book festivals I do very well at. Um, I I I am terrible at talking about myself, even though we've been doing this for 45 minutes. Uh, However, I get a sense of like people see these banners and it's like the one of them's my background. It says, Dominature, what the devil banished God from heaven, and it's an eye catcher, right? And look, I had stories for days about people that wanted to cause me physical harm because they thought I was just going against their God. Um, but that's another episode one day with you. Um, but those have been great. Like, and I'm happy to say, like, yeah, when I go there with sometimes I sold out in 2 hours and I have to sit there 4 hours just BSing with like my marketing cards. Here, go to my website. Here's your free ebook. I'm sorry I sold out of the copies because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect people to gravitate towards it. So that's been my best. And also just visually seeing people pick up a book and read your blurb. That's huge. And I've seen that lead to a sale more than me selling on it because I just kind of keep quiet. I let them do their thing, and if they want to talk to me about it, we go. Now, what I need to do better on like the boring stuff, and it's not really boring. It's just I'm somebody that like thinks things could be done more efficiently, and the author world I think is just scatterbrained, um, platforms and stuff like that. But I figured them out. Some of them, like Facebook ads, I'm a big believer in, and I'm going to plug somebody. Matthew Holmes runs an excellent course. He's a guy out of the UK. But the thing with that is, not him in this course. It's just overall these ad structures, they change constantly. Like once you get the hang of it, then you have to make adjustments and you have to redo everything. So it's a constant keeping up with that. And you have to, if you want to do it cost effectively, you have to learn how to make your own creative. Like I need to learn how to make like this, right? And then like put words on it and then upload it as a one of my ad copies. And you want to learn that yourself because you get to save more money rather than hiring people to do it. And I think that would happen no matter, even if you're traditionally published now. You can have an agent and that will help you maybe get into more bookstores. But I still think you're doing the same stuff. From what I've been told from well-known authors, they're like, yeah, we're still doing our own marketing. And, I think you have to just know your genre. Obviously, I made it a challenge on myself because you use the word genre bending, and that's what I am. But like some people are like, it's not an easy thing to say sometimes. Like some people like that. If you're like an HP Lovecraft fan, like you're all into it. But some people are like, well, so wait, it's this and that. And then like some people, it goes over the head, the Christopher Nolan, Tolkien comparison that I throw at them, even though I think that's pretty damn good. Uh, they, it's tricky. And like, TikTok, like I said earlier, romance authors do great on it. I don't think, um, I don't know, like certain genres just don't play well on there. However, like certain genres play well on, say, what's the one I just saw that I thought was interesting? What's the freaking the site with pictures, not Instagram, like it begins with a P too. I'm
Pinterest?
blanking. Pinterest, that's it. Yeah, someone said they're doing well on Pinterest.
Huh.
And one of those author chats I'm on Facebook, I was like, oh, it's interesting. But yeah, it's just a lot of trial and error, and then you just have to. That's why I just wanted to focus on it over the summer. Like I said earlier, I need to learn this. Like I need to just study this, and that's what I did. And I have a better grasp on it. I'm still not a master at it by any means, and I'm just gonna. I think I'll be better set up to launch these two books next year, and that's my goal is to have both horror books. I'm kind of like when they shoot movies back to back in the same franchise. I'm gonna try to do this with these books. I'm gonna try to just get them both done and then kind of release them close together because I've never tried that. I didn't do the rapid releasing technique, which is another marketing thing some people swear by.
Right.
Um, so it's just a lot of it is just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks.
Right.
Um,
Well, you left WWE and you wanted to be a writer. What were some of your habits that you had to get these books on, out and on the market?
my habits to get them out there. Um,
Like, did you have certain goals during the day or weekly goals that you tried to hit?
Yeah, I guess with the query letters, which are basically soliciting agents, because look, I did meet some people during my time in WB where I was able to maybe jump the line a little bit with some well-known literary agents that I knew nothing about because I didn't ever see myself in this world. So I had to figure out, well, who are they? And so I asked some people that I know, and they're gracious with their time and connections and saying, yeah, email me this, I'll get it right to them rather than me having to go through the process. And if you've ever seen the querying process, if you're an author, holy crap, talk about something that needs just a streamline because everyone wants something different. And that's so like a habit was like patience. I needed, or maybe a trait I needed to like, I had to have a ton of patience. But my goal was just to basically query 5 agents a day, which is a lot. It might not seem like a lot, and you think you can just copy and paste your letter, but no, they all wanted different things. You're constantly tweaking your synopsis, which is the hardest thing I think I ever wrote. Um,
It's
Although
not
I did
easy to
it,
condense a 300 word, page book into a 3-page paragraph or 3 paragraphs or 3 pages or whatever.
oh, it's a pain in the butt. That's why I was glad for, again, maybe I was just late to the party, but I did it, the synopsis first for these 2 horror books. I wrote the synopsis. I'm like, I'm going to read this now for a week. and I'm gonna see if I like it every time. Because if I'm really into it every time, then I might have something, and then that freaking part's done, and I never have to worry about the crap again. Because I will go back around, even though I got a better handle on the indie publishing. I probably will try doing the query of the agents thing again, mainly just because I'm stubborn and I want to. Because I met with a bunch. I went up to New York, and I don't know. I just kind of want to. I have like the classic. You've heard about this now because it's been out there. Well, like Michael Jordan, and I'm not comparing myself as a writer to the Michael Jordan level of basketball, but when he was shut down or shut out on something, ooh, it burnt a fire in him, and he came back and he, not to say proved anybody wrong, but he's like, I belong here.
Right.
And there's a part of me, I'm not ashamed to say it. I kind of want to do that to these agents. I
Nice.
I kind of want to be like, you know what, you didn't look at me now, or then you're gonna look at me now. So, and if that's the thing that helps me get through that process when I get to it, yeah. But habits, I don't know. It was just kind of just staying on it and doing things.
Did you have like word count goals or like, all right, I'm going to sit down and write for 2 hours a day?
1,000 words a day was the minimum. I made sure now you could get that in the first, like you said, 2 hours of your day. Sometimes you hit 5,000. One time I went to a condo on the beach because I live in Florida, and I hit 10,000 in a day and a half. But then there's days where you just struggle to get to that thousand. But so yeah, thank you for helping me figure out a habit I had because I was drawing a blank. But yeah, 1,000 words a day has always been my minimum. And then even if they're crap, you can go back the next day and clean it up. And that's what I would recommend. That worked well for me, is whatever I wrote the day before, whether it was just part of a chapter or the whole chapter, I wouldn't move on until I kind of go back and clean that up because I don't want to rely on editors. My editor, I like her a lot, but I want to do my part to make sure she's not going crazy, correcting so much. Like I think a lot of that's on me. But again,
Hmm.
it's my WB mindset that I carried over with me. It's always my fault. So,
How did you find your editor?
oh, a mutual friend of ours actually, Jonathan Yanes, who's an excellent author, um, sci-fi, urban fantasy. My first book was edited by somebody I just did trial and error with, and they did okay, but I had to go back and I had to fix some things because I did an audio book for the first book as well. Because I figured if that's my first book, I want to have everything available to get it out there, right? Ebook, print, and then the audiobook I eventually did. And I'm so glad I did before it got out to more people because when you hear it read back to you, you start to catch things that not only that editor missed, but I missed. I mean, I don't put it all in that first editor. There's a few like and nothing major, but to me it was like, ugh, how did I spell cache wrong 3 times? Like it just kept coming out cache. Like I didn't catch the freaking spell check when you transfer over from like what I write in Scrivener to Microsoft Word. I just missed it because there's just so much. But then this new author or editor was Jonathan Yanis's, and he kindly uh, put us together, and she's been great. And I'm not saying her name because I don't want anybody else to know who the hell it is. So, but she's awesome.
Well, going back to, as an indie author, you're in charge of everything. You have fantastic works of art behind you. How'd you find your artist?
Oh, I'm gonna draw a blank like I did on Pinterest. There's a site where it's like just known for all these artists. They just throw up their work. It's a very well-known site in that world. And I started going there, and I just messaged 4 people. I had no idea who these people were. One apparently like designs everything for Star Wars, and I'm like, hey, here's my budget of $500 for a thing. He just laughed at me. He's like, I command like whatever it was, some insane number for his work. But then it didn't take long. Like this one guy, I'm happy to share his name, Ray Lopez. And if you go to my Instagram, you'll see I have a post just for him. I don't have many posts, so you'll see it. Ray, I messaged him. He got right back to me. We had one phone call, and we're just like, all right, let's see what we got. And that's the closest thing to I had like reliving my WB life where I had to work with different departments because it wasn't just writing the stories, it was everything. PR, t-shirts, creative services we called it. Like I had to prove a lot of the stuff or give the ideas and do all that. So that was real fun to do. He needed all three covers. The one behind me is book one, and then Blood of Crichton and Live to Evil. He did those as well. So smooth. I just I can't draw for like crap, and I just doodled on like a note and I took a picture. I sent it to him. I'm like, here's what I'm thinking, but and he gives me a sketch. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to do. And he's looking at stick figures and whatever I just rambled off to him. And then he turns it around so well, and I like his style. Um, it helped that he was into it because I guess I caught him at the right time too because he was doing more fam friendly stuff, and he's like, oh, all right, I get to lean into some darker, um, edgier imagery, and so yeah, he's been great. He will be doing the books because I'm not, even though AI is available now and AI is really good, and I'm sure I can get a badass cover off that. I am still going to use Ray because I don't want those guys to lose their job because they are so insanely talented.
Exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great oh man, I just lost like you did with Pinterest. I just lost my
AI,
thought.
usually when I bring up AI, it leads us to talking about AI, which I'm just like, it's
No, like
there.
it's a great attitude, I guess I should say. Like, there are creative, like just like you wanting to sell your books, like you're putting in the work, you're putting in the time, and you want to be recognized for that. You could go on to AI and have a book written for you and put that out there, but it's not the same feeling as when you're creating your own stuff. So yeah, that's a great attitude to have.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Joe, I feel like we could talk for a couple more hours, but do you have any final tips or tricks that you can share with newer authors or people trying to make it on their own?
I don't know about the author world because I still feel like I'm a rookie. Yes, I got three books done. Yes, I figured out I got a little better with the process every time, meaning the business side of it more than the writing side. My only advice is to trust what you want to write. Um, don't listen to a lot of outside sources, and then just get the creative part done, and then worry about the business side. I know you're going to have to eventually juggle both at the same time, but if it's your first time writing a story and you've had no story training, and I'm not saying you can't do it because obviously, as I mentioned earlier, I was shocked how many people can write a book. I'm not saying they're all great, um, but I think it's beneficial if you kind of study some story structure, and when you write that draft, and even if you've been doing what I do, like you check it every the next day and edit as you go, um, just take some time with it, but don't let it slip away. Like make sure it's just like if you're practicing piano. I just looked at my keyboard over there. Like I have to do 10 minutes a day, or I'm gonna forget how to play every Aerosmith song I'm trying to learn. And so you have to just stay on it, and like, or just going to the gym if that's easier. Yeah, you might stick with the gym for a year and then holy crap, look at my body, and then you think you can start slacking off, and then guess what? You lose it quick. So if you're gonna go in and like commit to it and be prepared to make some sacrifices to make sure you keep that creative muscle working and gets you through to you just gotta get through it once.
That's some great advice. Joe, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, social media handles, and if you're going to any more festivals or conventions, either at the end of this year or in 2025, go ahead and tell people where they can find you.
Do the thing I hate talking about myself.
Yeah, talk about yourself.
Um, so joebelcastro.com. That's my website. You can get a free ebook there, which is called Dominature Hellrise, which is kind of a 40-page prequel, or I call it a gateway into the series. You can see if you like my style or what I'm kind of doing with the story. Instagram, Actually, all my social media stuff you can just find at joebelcastro.com. And depending on when this airs, and this is, I'm only doing this once because I said earlier, I'm a big believer you don't give your work away for free. However, I'm willing to try everything once. And so for just a few days, November 20th to the 23rd or 24th, I'm gonna give away book one for free, the ebook on Amazon, um, just to see if I can get some more eyeballs on it. So depending on when people get this or see this, go to through my website or on Amazon, look up Dominature, and you will see book one ebook will be for free. And if you dig that, then two and three are waiting for you.
Okay, this is going out November 8th. So people that see this
Oh,
before
perfect.
then will have an opportunity to get that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to try it. Like I said, I don't believe in some of the things I do, but I'm willing to give everything a shot.
Awesome. Any conventions that you're going to plan to in 2025?
Maybe a few, but I'm gonna stay. I usually go all over the country when I can, but since I'm gonna be writing two books and I want to really knock those out faster this time, maybe Florida, Georgia. There's a couple that I'm eyeing, but nothing definite. But I always post on my social media when I will be going well in advance. So follow me there if you're interested in meeting me and seeing people get creative heckling me at some of these things. There's always one that wants to kneel down and pray for my soul. Uh, it's quite funny.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you so much for getting on with me today.
No, my pleasure. You're always fun to talk to.
Thank you for listening to the Troy Podcast. Please subscribe, like, and share with your friends.